Today is a training about Daikin. We'll do the overview. Fuse started installation of Daikin systems starting from May. Daikin has valid system configuration. This is, as you can see, it says communicating. It means these type of systems, like first and second, air handler, furnace, which is equipped with electronic valve, and heat pump air conditioning, this guy called FIT. This is communicating system. But at the same time, going back, because you guys probably know that Daikin acquired Goodman. Now all equipment called Daikin used to be Goodman. So these older styles, they are not communicating indoor and non-communicating outdoor units. So this slightly, probably more similar to old system we've been installing all the time. But the new system, as its communicating system, so it should be good communication between two. Basically, the data goes back and forth, comparing the temperature, what is set, what type of temperature is outside. That's why a lot of sensors, so that's why it needs to be installed properly, especially communication wire is very important. Everything is obviously done based on the installation manual. You will have all this information when you receive the equipment for the installation. So there are two of them. This is installation manual, and there is a service manual or operational manual. So that's why you guys have to keep it or leave it, with the homeowner. Because we receive once in a while phone calls that, we got one manual, but where is the second one? So it should be two. So that's why when you open the package, you really have to check for that as well. Nomenclature. Probably it's a good idea to find out, what those letters mean, because obviously when you receive the equipment, it will be DX, DZ, many other numbers. This table will show you how to figure out what you're dealing with. Air handlers, over here you can see there are many coils. We'll talk about it later on. Daikin makes coils as well. So modular blowers, if it needs to be done that way. Let's talk a little bit about FIT. FIT is, slim unit, basically. Daikin FIT, I decided to put a little bit more information about it. It's a variable speed, and it is DC. Very similar to Mitsubishi systems, and 7mm coil. Compressor is swing compressor, it's new compressor, it's Daikin design. As Daikin says, it is very reliable. Hoping it is. We'll see when time goes by, right? So inverter board, there are obviously a lot of electronics in these systems. Bluefin corrosion coating, which is a good thing, especially being by the ocean. A lot of information can be found in installation manual and in here in any other links as well. So let's talk about this particular element. The box looks like this, right? Probably, I don't know if you receive that all the time with the package for the installation. Maybe not. It depends on the sales, and it depends if the customer wants it or not. Box is like this, and it says it requires designated transformer. So it's separate transformer for this particular unit. Basically, the unit or this sensor sensing the airflow quality, and it's for visualization in most cases, and you'll be able to see it. We'll show it on the thermostat last bottom button. You'll be able to push it. You'll see what air quality in real time is. So it's very important for some of the customers. So that's why we are offering it, and Daikin designed it at that particular purpose.
I'd like to add some notes regarding the Daikin FIT system, why it's so popular, and why we sell it more and more and more. There are a few things that's unique for this system. First one, we can use it with the existing line sets, mostly. The second one, it's required very low amperage. And because the city asks us to do load calculation every time, most of the carriers, Mitsubishi, just does not fit the load requirement, does not meet load requirements for the new system. That's why we go with the Daikin, because it's let's say Carrier, Freeton will ask us for 45 amps, while Daikin, 25 is enough.
So we got a table regarding the breakers amperage, so we'll go further regarding on that. And another thing is, you guys know that we as a company and Daikin offers us 12 years warranty, and we sell it with 12 years warranty for the equipment and for the labor. So that's why the installation quality obviously should be on the high note. Going further, it was a lot of questions or clarifications, I guess, I would say, about line set diameter. There is a table over here. Obviously, it's taken from the installation manual. As we can see, liquid line, suction line, certain tonnage, and certain diameters. You have to be sure that for that particular equipment you are planning to install, you got the right line set for the diameters. As I mentioned earlier, there are different types of Daikins. For example, if you see the name Vista, it means sealing cassettes. All the equipment is in our price book already loaded. So if you're searching something, let's say, you can put just Vista. It'll show you all the equipment by tonnage, by specification, what is required for your installation. Another one is, this is mini split, as you can see, and very interesting name, Emura. It's wall unit, looks like this. There are a number of them, they look different slightly. To be able to find what you're installing, you can just open the picture and to see what type of equipment we are dealing with. Another one is Aurora, and it has a number of different modifications. Mini split, sealing. This we call it pancake, right? But it's, there is a certain name for that. We'll talk about it just now. Basically, it's ducted concealed unit, official name of it, or floor mounting unit. Daikin allows installation of different units in one multi-split system. So another one over here, as I already mentioned, and the modification is FDMQ, and it's ducted concealed, and it comes with or pairs with fit. And good thing about that, and very similar again to Mitsubishi, you can modify it to be able to use as a zoning system. As you can see, this is a ducted sealing unit with certain modification. It can be done as a zoning unit, and it should have zoning kit for that though. This particular area, it's a zoning kit and it comes separately, but can be installed this way, and thermostat and any others can be installed the way that it showed in here or based on the specification or the manual. Daikin coils, as I mentioned earlier, Daikin makes many different equipment, including its own coil, and there is a nomenclature. You can see, C is indoor coil. In most cases, it is indoor coil, right? Horizontal, downhole, upflow, and all these letters will give you a kind of a knowledge what type of installation of that particular coil would have been. Probably surprisingly, the coil has its own board. In order to be able to install it, you have to have this adapter. And there is a link over here to be able to go through. And again, when you install it, obviously you'll get that specification manual with you, but at the same time, if you need it electronically, you can just click the link in our presentation. You'll be able to go there and do that. Daikin air handlers. Nowadays, obviously, many our customers are moving from the furnaces and regular ACs to air handlers. Let's make it a little bit bigger. All aluminum coils. Probably surprisingly, used to be, or many other equipment still provide with copper coils. Daikin provides with aluminum. From their opinion, aluminum is good to use, cost effective mostly, we understand that, but at the same time giving 12 years of warranty, obviously they have to be sure that aluminum coil will be able to work for that period of time, probably even longer. With electronic expansion valve and variable speed, we already kind of know about it, but the installation, it's this is particular, upflow unit, right? Could be downflow. That's why it can be modified to be able to install the way it needs to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add about the air handlers. So keep in mind, this type of air handler does not allow side returns. The second thing is if we install the unit downflow, not the upflow, downflow, it's required downflow kit. So unit has to be modified on the side a little bit if you install it downflow, okay?
All right, talking about mini splits, a lot of customers are asking about using Wi-Fi or the application to be able to use with the mini split, because normally mini splits comes with remote control, right? It can be lost, can be misplaced somewhere. So that's why using the application, especially with technology nowadays, we are in Silicon Valley. So that's why in order to do that, there is a special adapter. And again, going to see what type of equipment it is and which names or series can compatible with, this stated right here. So for not every unit it can go with, but at the same time definitely have to be clarified. We've done that number of times. We call Daikin just to be sure that this particular adapter works with particular unit you guys installing. So just you guys have to kind of know about it. Knowledge is powerful, so that's why when you know something, you know about it. Even probably sell additionally to your customer if they didn't know about it.
Yeah, like a Kuma Cloud for wall mounts.
Very similar, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And there is another option for the same mini splits, but sometimes customer want not remote control, not only the application, but the thermostat on the wall, which is wired thermostat, right? So to be able to do that, you have to have another adapter, which is different. Would be nice if one adapter will be able to do that in both purposes, but it doesn't work that way. But this guy definitely, again, based on the specification, you have to really find out or clarify with us what type of system it will be working with. There is another one. There are a few, maybe confusing sometimes, I can see it, but at the same time there is another one. And again, it says compatibility over here. Obviously, you know what type of mini split or multi-split you are installing. You'll be able to see based on this table what type of models is compatible. So my understanding, talking to Daikin tech support, they said lower series, let's say 15 series mini splits, they cannot come with Wi-Fi systems, adapters. It is unfortunately, so that's why, but at the same time for us as a service company, we can probably sell or offer our customers higher SEER because it has an option to go with not only the remote control, but the application as well. It is a Daikin 1 powered ventilator. It allows to get a fresh air from outside, which is not very common in California, and especially here as well. In many places it's different. It allows to get the fresh air inside of the house. And it's optional, and it's relatively simple equipment for the installation and for the operation. Mostly, many other equipment manufacturers offering heat recovery units. Those are probably a little bit fancier than this one, but this is relatively easy to install and operate, as I mentioned. So we're coming to very important part of our training. So this note or guideline was provided from Daikin initially from the beginning before we start the installation. So you guys know, and probably many of you guys seen it. So let's go through. This is very important. Number one, when you receive the equipment, you have to inspect it. You guys already know it was a lot of communications back and forth and discussions about it. Daikin maybe is not perfect at this point, so that's why there are certain defects or anything like that on the equipment before the installation, you have to inspect it. If you can fix it, if it's minor, can be done at the spot, you guys can do it. If not, the equipment needs to be replaced. Already mentioned that Daikin allows to use old line sets, existing ones. In most cases, we replace, right, or install the new one. So this is a good benefit, but at the same time, definitely, it should be nitrogen purged. You know what nitrogen does, right? We use dry nitrogen. Dry nitrogen, sucks basically all the moisture or whatever might have been inside of that old line set. So that's why definitely needs to be used. This is another good point. Number 3, suction line must be run above indoor coil. I got a picture on that. Let's go and have a look. This is in the specification or installation manual. Are you guys doing it or not? I'm not sure, but there is a reason for that. Suction line is in the picture, thicker line. It should be, it says slightly higher above the top of the indoor unit. This loop will allow to keep certain oil in the refrigerant, not going back to compressor and avoiding potential hammering effect. So that's why during the installation you really have to keep in mind. Let's go back over here. During the brazing, nitrogen sweep. Firstly, because we already using, let's say, old line set, which is you really have to purge it first with nitrogen, and at the same time, during the brazing, using a nitrogen. Mitsubishi required that as well, but in here, Daikin requires the same thing. And it says must. You guys can see this, right? Must means you have to. The equipment you're receiving for the installation will be coming with line dryer. So it needs to be installed within 12 to 18 inches before the indoor coil or air handler. So it allows to be closer to outside unit, but manufacturer recommends to do that. It doesn't say must in here, but it's recommended to put closer to air handler. Pressure test, especially using old line set, you really have to be sure that pressure test will go through properly. So, and that's why it's done in 3 different stages. First is 150 psi for 3 minutes. Second one is 325 for 5 minutes. And the third one is 450 psi for 4 hours. I'm not sure if we really do 4 hours, but really it should be at least close to that. Let's put it that way. And again, as you can see, the maximum pressure in here in Daikin is not 500, not 600, and 450. You have to know about that. And obviously, if you don't have proper equipment as a regulator for your nitrogen bottle, you have to have it for proper PSI to be able to reach. Triple evacuation, which is a common thing for now or today's technology, but at the same time, you have to do that. The maximum will go to 500 microns for 60 minutes, but at the same time, it goes in stages. As it goes in stages, between the stages, you have to purge with nitrogen again. So when you vacuum first time, you're reaching 4,000 microns, for example, to 15 minutes, and then you're purging it for a couple of minutes with 2-3 psi nitrogen, and then go back and vacuum it again, and go back and vacuum it again, and the lowest you have to go to is 500 micron, and it should be at least 60 minutes. This is manufacturer recommendation, and we have to do that. While vacuuming the system, you need to calculate whatever required free on charge needs to be done. All the equipment comes with pre-charged. We know about it, right? From 1 to 3 ton is certain amount, from 3 to 5 a little bit higher. And we'll talk about it. It's on the table. It's easy to calculate, but it has to be done during your vacuum because you still sitting and waiting, basically, what you're doing it, right? So that's why you have to do something important. So once vacuum is completed, you're opening a service valve and adding our Freon, which is 410, to liquid line in liquid form before opening everything else, because we're not opening the service valve yet. So to be able to do that, it's relatively easy. And again, you guys have done that many times, but at the same time, we have to know that's into liquid line, as it says in here. And then after charging the system, the service valve, first we need to open suction line. Probably it's very common, but at the same time, I think it's to know and to pay attention when you do that. It is important. Suction line first, then liquid line. I believe, we mentioned from the beginning, it is communicating system. So that's why back and forth, the data signal goes back and forth. So that's why, especially here, and the brain of the equipment is in the outdoor, or main brain, let's put it that way, because there are a number of other boards. So that's why it says in here, particularly, firstly, never supply power before the completing installation. This is very important, you have to know, because you're not testing it during kind of installation yet. Completed, only then you can put the power. And it says the power outdoor unit first. It's simple, but you guys have to remember that. Especially when you see on the breaker, right? Outside unit, indoor unit. So that's why always outside unit first. Even when you reset and do recalls, stuff like that, outdoor one first. Powering, and then air handler. Then system will work properly. If you're not going to do that, you might have certain problems. And we can hear that back and forth. Number of times already happened. So that's why, please keep in mind, you have to do that. And again, it's communicating system. You need to go to communication. First, you have to set up a Wi-Fi first, because the software, and again, it's new technology system, right? Software works with the software. Software might be outdated, and it depends when the equipment was manufactured and delivered. So that's why first, based on this, it says first you have to put Wi-Fi on. And then it asks for the update. And we'll go all these other steps with the thermostat slides, but at the same time, let's go very quickly. Personalization on the thermostat. Obviously, it'll ask you English, French, or any other languages. And equipment setup, very important part. It takes some time. Probably you guys noticed it already, and you will see, in the future, it takes time to find the proper equipment. Until it couldn't find it, don't go further. I totally understand, but at the same time, maybe during that period of time, you can, put your equipment down, organize something. Definitely something better has to be done. But it takes time. And system optimization and system test, again, will take some time. It says 5 to 15 minutes. Definitely, it will take probably from 10 to 15, mostly than 5 minutes. And from system optimization, if you haven't charged it before, it'll give you time to charge. You can do that. And run the system, 100% capacity, says in here, for 1 hour. There is another 1 hour. You have to wait. We totally understand. It was a lot of questions. Why it takes that much time. The commissioning part is probably sometimes, takes 30% of your whole installation period. Yeah.
I'd like to go through all these steps in Russian, just to make sure we're all on the same page, okay? Вот этот список составили инженеры Daikin, техподдержки, которым звонили и спрашивали, почему система не работает, что происходит и так далее. Я вам больше скажу, этот список используем мы, когда нам звонят и спрашивают, что случилось с моим Daikin'ом, что такое. Итак, первый пункт – это проверка, инспекция оборудования. Надо посмотреть, все ли ровненько, все ли аккуратненько, нет ли каких-то повреждений оборудования. Если там немножечко где-то металл погнул, вернули в нормальное положение, все хорошо. Если серьезные какие-то повреждения, юнит меняется. Почему это важно? Потому что если вы это увидите, когда у вас что-то начнет скрипеть в моменте тестирования, поменять это, отремонтировать будет намного сложнее, намного дольше. Следующее. Если мы используем существующий лайнсет, что с ним надо сделать, Антон?
Найтридженом продуть.
Абсолютно верно. Его надо продуть найтридженом, убедиться, что все окей и диаметр подходит для нашей новой системы Daikin. Следующий пункт, очень важный, это Daikin рекомендует, требует, чтобы у нас suction line имела петлю выше койла.
Именно петлю или просто достаточно, чтобы выше койла шла?
Достаточно, чтобы чуть-чуть выше шла. Ваше предположение, зачем это?
в нижней точке изгиба.
Чтобы оно как раз не утекало обратно в конденсер. Чтобы часть масла оставалась в внутреннем юните. Соответственно, если мы ведем лайнсет, грубо говоря, у нас аутдор, на улице стоит система на атике, мы ведем лайнсет по атику. Если вдоль крыши, нам никакую петлю делать не надо, у нас лайнсет и так выше идет. Если у нас, например, система в клозете, лайнсет идет в кролл-спейсе, то мы просто делаем небольшой загиб для того, чтобы наш лайнсет, наш suction line была выше койла.
Для чего масло в койле?
Для того, чтобы у тебя, если оно все стечет в компрессор к outdoor юниту, то в момент запуска может быть гидроудар. На системах Mitsubishi, Carrier, на всех производителях требует это. Это обязательное требование при лайнсете больше 100 фит. Daikin требует это и с меньшим лайнсетом тоже.
В какой точке собирается масло?
Ну, если это луп, то предположительно собираться будет вот где-то здесь и внутри. Он же должен быть выше.
Это очень важно, петлю именно это.
Именно вот и тут написано петля. Луп.
Идея, чтобы вот часть была выше койла.
Точку доводить до выше, чем...
Да.
Чуть-чуть выше. Тут и написано чуть-чуть выше. Не говорит сколько, но чуть-чуть. Ну, предположим, инч или приблизительно.
Двигаемся дальше. You must use nitrogen while brazing.
Варить с найтриджем.
Абсолютно верно. Почему это важно? Потому что забьется EXV, и тебе ехать на рекол, менять EXV. Чтобы не ехать на рекол, используем найтриджен при сварке. Двигаемся дальше. Pressure test. Рекомендую делать в 3 этапа. Nitrogen pressure test после того, как мы сделали систему. 150 PSI, 325, 450. Почему вначале 150 PSI?
Это крупную емкость обнаружить.
Абсолютно верно, абсолютно верно. И потом 450 PSI на 4 часа. Но если вы сделаете 3,5, тоже подходит. Все делают на Mitsubishi тест. На Mitsubishi 500 PSI. Соответственно, если вы используете адаптер на 500 PSI, все отлично. Если вы используете адаптер на 250 PSI, купите для найтриджена, купите нормальный на 500-600. Окей? Следующий пункт – это установка Liquid Line фильтра. Производитель рекомендует устанавливать его около indoor юнита, будь это coil или air handler.
В комплекте идет?
Да. На некоторых моделях он идет в outdoor юнит спрятанный. На некоторых моделях, на системах его нет. Ну, значит, он там не нужен.
Если в комплекте нет, значит не нужен. Как
Да.
в Гудмане в квадратных.
Да, да. В Гудманах квадратных, там в outdoor юните он спрятан. Итак, двигаемся дальше. Трипл эвакуация, то есть 3 раза вакуумируем. Какая идея? Что ты вакуумируешь систему, откачал там до 1500 микрон и разбил твой вакуум найтридженом до 2-3 PSI. Что это позволяет? У нас найтриджен какой? Абсолютно верно. Он забирает влагу из лайнсета, и за счет этого дальнейшая вакуумация происходит намного быстрее. Двигаемся дальше. Добавление, заправка системы фреоном. После того, как мы сделали вакуумацию, перед тем, как открывать сервисные краны на системе, сервисный порт, мы добавляем фреон в жидкой форме в Liquid Line. Daikin рекомендует добавить, мы Мы можем заправить систему на этом этапе, либо на этапе после того, как мы прошли System Optimization и перешли в Charge Mode. У вас есть две опции. В жидкой форме, в Liquid Line. Задам вот так вопрос. Почему при выключенной системе мы добавляем в тоненькую трубку, а при включенной системе, в работающей, добавляем в толстую?
Всасывание производит.
Не, закипит сразу в этом suction line, если мы будем добавлять. Так он в жидкой форме втечет.
Максим, ты правильно сказал. Скажи погромче, пожалуйста. Почему мы добавляем в работающую систему в толстую трубку, а не в тонкую? Мы просто физически не сможем добавить в тонкую трубку. Отлично. Двигаемся дальше. А теперь переходим к самым важным пунктам. Что-то не работает, что-то не ищет, что-то не получается. Первое, что мы делаем, мы должны убедиться, что мы все закончили установку. Нельзя включать систему, если у вас что-то не сделано. Вы, допустим, думаете, сейчас у меня пока вакуумируется, я быстренько термостат настрою, деньги заберу и побегу. Так не работает. Так не работает. Сначала нужно все закончить, все установить, только потом запускать систему. Например, вы все поставили, потом что-то проверяете, смотрите, не поставил air sensor. Ну ладно, сейчас настрою клиенту, сейчас пока он что-то разбирается, я установлю его. Так не получится сделать. Нужно сразу все смонтировать и только потом запускать систему. Как запускать систему? Сначала мы подаем питание на уличный юнит, потом на внутренний юнит. Это очень важно сделать именно в таком порядке. Дальше двигаемся. Переходим к термостату Daikin One. Когда мы запускаем систему, что мы должны сделать в первую очередь на термостате? Максим, скажи, пожалуйста, ты ездил 3 раза на рекол, пока это не сделал?
Тест пройти.
До теста.
Wi-Fi.
Абсолютно верно. Подключить Wi-Fi и обновить прошивку. Мы должны сделать обновление термостата, обновление системы для того, чтобы наша система работала и все было правильно. Итак, после того, как мы сделали обновление прошивки, мы переходим к следующему пункту. Называется Equipment Setup. И мы должны дождаться, пока наша система обнаружит все юниты, все внутренние юниты, которые подключены. Что это? Это правильная модель аутдора, правильная модель индора. Если у нас какие-то сенсоры дополнительные подключены, все должно появиться на экране. Что делать, если не появилось? Поставить на паузу, выключить систему и идти разбираться, почему не появляется. Может быть, вы что-то с проводами не подключили, где-то питание не подведено, где-то плохой контакт и так далее. Если на этом этапе вы обнаружили, что у вас плохой контакт, Максим, подскажи, пожалуйста, что делать?
Нужно просто не пихать 3 провода в одну клемму, а через вайернат.
Да, если мы обнаружили, что у нас плохой контакт, что мы делаем? Чиним этот контакт, и потом идем к термостату и нажимаем «Продолжить», или есть какой-то нюанс?
Сделать тест.
Абсолютно верно. Нужно начать все заново. Поэтому проинспектировать систему, что вы установили все правильно, нужно до начала сетапа. После того, как мы все нашли, мы запустили систем-тест, который занимает 5-15 минут, в среднем 10-13. После теста у нас все хорошо, все правильно. Мы можем перейти в Charge Mode и заправить нашу систему. Все понятно? Вопросы есть?
Да. Как
Да.
ты написал? Обновить прошивку.
Во время включения системы он тебя спросит, там первый пункт, мы сейчас покажем это на картинке, подключение к Wi-Fi, подключаемся к Wi-Fi, и он сразу предложит обновление. И второй момент, который хочу обратить внимание, пункт насчет языка, размера шрифта и даты и времени. Тоже рекомендую вам выставить это сразу. С чем это связано? Если возникнет какая-то ошибка, то вы сможете посмотреть, когда эта ошибка возникла, и будет проще ее отремонтировать, починить и исправить.
Это называется time stamp. Кто компьютерами занимался, возможно, слышали, да? Он там прямо показывает время там, до минуты. И зафиксирует, и это будет при вас, там, во время установки. Это больше касается рекола, но в то же время в самом начале. Okay, let's continue. We already been talking about this loop, and it says, as I mentioned again, slightly higher. Let's say about 1 inch or plus minus. That would be slightly higher. We already discussed the reason for that. So placement of the equipment as it's communicating, and it's a lot of electronics included. So that's why there is a picture in your installation manual, but I decided to put it in here because it might be really important, especially being communication wire and power wire close by, because there is a minimum requirement. It should be 2 inches. And TV radios, especially being close to a thermostat, might be certain issues bring over to continuing operation or after you complete. You might not see it right away, but might be potential for recalls. What fit good about is, as you can see from the wall, from the back wall in particular case, is 4 inches minimum, which is really good. Sometimes you don't have, especially with, property lines and stuff like that. So that's why fit is really popular because of the distances you can install to. In this particular case we have something similar in our installation a while ago or a month or two ago. It was certain requirement to install within the enclosure. Basically, this is a wall or the fence, and there is a wall of the garage of the house or something similar. So on the front side, it should be 20 inches. And there are different pictures, different configurations. On the installation manual, you can find this particular one. Let's say if they, in a row, for example, right? It used to be 4, now it's 12. So there are 3 in particular case. As I mentioned in the installation manual, you can see particular option you're installing at. So this is regarding the clearances, right? So we have different type of options, and multi-zone system, this is one of the examples. Bigger unit. This is light commercial in particular case. Branch boxes, as you can see based on the diagram, each branch box has a separate power. It means disconnect box, right? So the indoor units will be powered from the branch box. A lot of questions regarding the wiring. This is a table again in the installation manual. It says 18, 16 gauge wire. Sheath means like this. Doesn't have to be white, can be different color, but at the same time it means the 2 wires, and stranded means многожильный, right? Shield needs to be connected to the chassis as a ground, one side. So if you don't have a shielded, so it's easier, and it's a relatively simple thing to do, only 2 wires, right? But at the same time you have to do it properly. Regarding the breakers, we already talked about it. Let's say 5-ton unit, 40 amps. Let's say over here that would have been 24 2-ton is 20. So all these breakers should be properly chosen. The system allows to use zoning system. And again, in this link, you'll be able to find and see it. It says over here, I believe maybe on the other one, it says read before the installation. So that's why I think it's stop and read this. So that's why a lot of information, again, 1 to 3s, you really have to follow. So that's why we put this link in here. You'll have it in paper form in your package, but at the same time, you'll be able to find it in Notion. Refrigerant charge, we mentioned about it from the beginning. Again, it's simple calculation. Total charge equals to factory charge. It's pre-charged from the factory, and you have to calculate based on this table, based on the length of your line set. You should find the proper volume, and it should be charged to where? In liquid form to liquid side, right? To low side, to lower line size. Another one over here is one of the important stuff to remember during the installation, especially air handler. It's a negative pressure inside. It means the blower is located on the top and your coil is below. So basically sucking the pressure, right? So that's why, if you hear from the customer that they have certain smell or something, it might have been because you don't have this proper liquid trap state in the trap, which is properly, and that's why these sizes should be done properly. Infinity, Carrier, and any others, they say minimum 4 for new units. So this is very similar concept, so it has to be applied properly. Almost we're getting to the commissioning part. Basically, we installed everything. We used proper wiring. These pins, probably you already know about it, right? These pins are used. And another thing about the wiring, and we'll talk about it now. So it's 1 and 2 is data, C and R, which is very common in other places as well, for power. So again, four wires, easy to connect. Again, as long as you do it properly. So that's why I decided to put this picture, because sometimes how it shows is kind of weird. I understand that. It could be confusion. Normally, that would have been, not crisscross or straight line, right? So it means you really have to pay attention, connect C to C and R to R. So in this particular case, as you can see, it's slightly crossing, but at the same time, you have to pay attention to that. This is your thermostat, Daikin 1. This is your indoor unit. As you can see, there are 4 wires between those two. Outdoor unit, you have 2 wires. And again, it goes and connects to this type of pins. This is 9-pin, and obviously there is 4-pin, which is very common in this application. But at the same time, if for certain reason you don't really have that 4-one, you still can use the 9, but again, you're going to be utilizing only 4 of them in here to be able to connect. This particular one is like in our demo with a coil. Again, we already talked about it. Coil has its own board to be able to connect the wiring for the coil properly. It's supposed to be going this way. Color-coded, just to make sure that you're connecting right wires to right connections. And there is another, probably, maybe you haven't heard, there is a term daisy chain. It means you wiring the equipment in sequence, one by one. So in this particular case, let's just review the red wire. One wire coming in, connecting to second wire, with another wire you coming out and going to third one, and so on. So that's why the picture is in here. You can't really do this. Let's say connect in the middle somewhere. You really have to go to the pin. It should be connected. And another thing is, I believe someone already mentioned about it, only 2 wires to 1 pin. No 3, no 4. 1 is probably doesn't make any sense because you're really connecting something, right? So that's why no more than 2 wires in 1 pin connection. This is for stranded wire. You have to use this type of connection. Crimp style terminal, right? So mostly applies to grounding. You can't really make a circle and put it together. That has to be done that way. Even washer should be below, then connection, then your screw, not vice versa. And it says good, wrong, so you have to follow that. So we're getting close to our commissioning part. So thermostat, probably you've seen it, many of you already installed. Looks like this. This one is Daikin 1 Plus. Smaller one is without it, right? There are 2 different versions we could use. So from the beginning, we already mentioned Wi-Fi setup first. Obviously, you'll ask for language, stuff like that. So communication. Communication is number 1. All these steps you have to follow. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Without going through each, you won't be able to finish the commissioning and start up the equipment properly. In number 1, that's why even on the guideline it says, firstly, during the commissioning, Wi-Fi setup first. Another question is what to do if there is no Wi-Fi in new construction, for example. That's probably a different story, but I guess we need to go back eventually when they finish the renovation or something. It might happen, but in most cases we install to existing homes.
Yeah, or you can just set up like a connection point from the phone.
With your own hotspot and still get the updated information. Continuous setup, personalization. It'll ask for language, how to name the devices, stuff like that. Timing is important. We talked about it. If you need to see and go back, for example, to do the error search and find what was the problem, when it was done, or something like that. Degrees, probably in the US will be in Fahrenheit, but there is an option. Sometimes people do in Cs as well, or Celsius. Going further, number 3, on the thermostat, again, going through one by one, you'll be able to see and set up the equipment. We already mentioned that is a really important moment you have to follow. It takes time, we understand that, but at the same time, it has to find. You have to, firstly, you have to choose proper equipment. If you're installing an air handler, you can't really say furnace, because it will not work and never will find it. So as you can see here, cool settings, heat settings, a lot of other stuff in this particular number 3 related to the equipment. So we're not going to go through with each one, but you'll be able to find it relatively easy during the installation and setup. In system optimization, which is number 4, you can see over here error history. Probably might be really important sometimes, especially, again, unfortunately talking about the potential recalls, which happens still. So that's why when you do that, it will be number 4, error history, and white, there are a lot of lines right in there. It would be one of them white, one of them yellow. Yellow is critical, and white is not critical. Let's say I reset the thermostat yesterday for our demo, and every reset or any startup, it shows white line, which is not critical, so it just acknowledges that something has been done. But yellow is critical. You really have to find out what might be the problem. Going further, system test. We already talked about it, and again, you'll be able to do that right from your thermostat. It says run test over here. Again, many of you probably installed it and saw already in your thermostat, but this is step you cannot avoid. Going further in here, preferences. We'll talk a little bit about this now, and dealer information in further slides. Few more important stuff I would like to mention. Dealer information, obviously it will be fused, and our data, our phones, whatever information you guys have. We have a website, we have probably main email address to be able to kind of connect if it needs to be, right? So that information needs to be inserted or entered. Reminders, you can probably give them certain direction, let's say for filter changing, because it's going to go back probably 4 hours for our services. So that's why good idea to give them certain, at least direction which way to go. So in here, this is reminders we're talking about, and we basically, when we get done everything, it will be looking like this, right? So another thing is, during going back or restarting a thermostat on the system during your installation, it will ask to go to settings, let's say based on the instructions, then it says dealer edit. It's easy to do. We can practice it, or you guys can practice it in our demo. It will ask you a 4-digit code. There is an I right on the top, right corner. Pushing there, it'll give you that code. Punching in, you'll go further. So there's no instructions you have to read. Basically, try to find it or phone someone, phone a friend to find about it. So I think it's easy to do. It was few questions regarding, airflow trim or mode change or speed change. Either way we can call it. So to be able to do that, I put the step-by-step instruction. Sometimes, we had a call already regarding, customer was saying that it's blowing too hard. Blowing too hard means in max, probably in certain CFM, it blows. So that's why there is an option in here, going to dealer edit. Obviously, you punching all those 4 digits, equipment setup, begin setup, and choosing heat pump. On heat pump, you can do or cooling, they are separate, heating setup, and cooling airflow trim, or it will be heating airflow trim. So you can do it on 3 speeds. On low, probably, it's already low, right? So that's why if they're really complaining about too much, maybe they're saying oppositely, maybe they need a little bit more for low. So it can be trimmed by 5 digits, by 5 up to 15%, both ways, up and down, each one. What I did is I went to higher speed and trim it down 15%, and they didn't call back, so it means they're happy. So that's why there is a good option, because you guys remember in Mitsubishi it was, you need to go 08 and 1, 2, 3 to be able to find the right airflow speed. So that's why in here it can be done in equipment setup. Homeowner navigation, that what they will see with this thermostat, what this button ring does is basically you can adjust the temperature. Probably customers may ask what it needs for. Basically easy to adjust your temperature. And another good thing is just pushing in the center, it'll go back like escape on the computer. We'll go back to main screen. So that's another kind of a good thing to do. So obviously a lot of things can be done on operation mode. You'll be able to on and off, many other things. Scheduling, many people can do. And again, you can just show them. They can do themselves. Obviously not going to do scheduling for them. And this one I already mentioned about the visualization of air quality. This is on the thermostat on the bottom left right button. You push it, you'll see this information. If everything's set up properly, it will be monitoring your air quality inside of your house or of their house, of the customer's house. So let's talk a little bit about mobile application. Mobile application, you guys have to show to the homeowner how to connect, because from the thermostat, there is no other adapter is needed to be able to connect. Because for mini splits, we've been showing that there are certain adapters you have to use. This one you can connect directly. As long as you do it properly, obviously you need to get Daikin 1 home application. You have to suggest or recommend to your customers to download. It's easy step relatively, but despite of that, it seems like some customers have certain problems. Again, when everything is said and done, it'll give you currently, this will be 6-digit code, and there are 2 of them, see? They will have it from their email first to be able to set up their home application, and then to be able to connect it to this thermostat, you have to have this number, and you can get it from the thermostat. Go to account, and I was trying to do it again yesterday just to be sure that we're doing the right thing. There are a couple of YouTubes, by the way. You guys can open it, and they go step by step. Sometimes, when someone is talking to you, showing the thermostat or any other equipment, I think it's a good thing to do. And another important part.
Before we go to the app, I'd like to talk a little bit about the zoning system.
Okay.
Can we go back to the zoning? Okay, so this is the zoning system for the Daikin. On the left side, you can see this is communication zoning board. So to connect or install zones to the Daikin, this is only compatible zoning board. We cannot use Honeywell or Aprilaire or whatever it is. Only this one work with the Daikin. It's required separate transformer. It's mandatory. We have to use separate transformer. Regarding the dampers, we can use just the regular standard dampers. It could be ultra torque dampers, it could be Honeywell dampers, or Aprilaire dampers. Third thing I want to mention is there are no remote sensors available to this system, but we can use Daikin 1 as the main thermostat main zone and nests for the slave zones for the second and the third one, for example. This is the good option with this zoning board.
But the manufacturer still recommends to use their own thermostats.
Yeah.
But can be done differently. But the recommendation is Daikin 1.
There are also a few adjustments you can do on this on board with these yellow buttons in the middle of the board. You can find the sequence in a manual attached
There is a
next
link.
to the picture in Notion.
Or
in a box with a
there are links.
board.
Whatever included in the box, they are in electronic form over here on the link. So let's go back to our one of the important applications, not for homeowner, for us as a company and installers. It's called Daikin Tech Hub. You can get it. I downloaded it for myself. The icon looks like this. Let's download it because it is important. It shows everything basically, and you'll be able to find whatever information regarding the documentation, regarding the manuals, error codes. It looks like this. You don't really have to get the ID, but at the same time I requested it for Fuse as a company. Didn't get the answers yet, but eventually we'll have it. But error codes over here, tools, all the documentation you can find basically on your hand. Yeah. Опять-таки причины и что необходимо сделать. Этот application очень хороший.
Прикольно,
Да,
да.
очень удобно. Потому что то же самое я, допустим, искал в компьютере. Гораздо было сложнее найти вот так. Разные таблички дает, там надо вот так пересекать, смотреть, где там что. Вот это насчет этого гораздо проще. И любую документацию. Almost same thing on the laptop you can do. Very similar. All the documentation. Again, it's account requires, by the way, unfortunately maybe. We're talking about mostly residential, right? So we're opening residential. We're finding whatever we are dealing with. You can find older style, newer styles, stuff like that. And you'll be able to find many documentations, pictures, brochures, stuff like that. So it is good to know. But application form probably much easier to use. And another thing over here, what any type of documentation can be found or information, what you need to do. In a lot of stuff you can find on the installation manual, piping, wiring, foundation, stuff like that, and service manual. This table probably, again, this is all in Notion. In real time, you can push the button, you'll find the information. And it will be updated all the time. And again, price book, I already mentioned from the beginning on your Service Titan. I have to log in here, so that's why we won't be able to see. But at the same time, you know how to work with Service Titan already. When you search, you need to move to equipment, though, firstly, because it's not going to go by itself, right? So you need to go to equipment. Let's say we already saw that name, Amura or Vista or any others. You'll be able to find them easily. There is a specification based on the model number, stuff like that, you'll be able to find. And obviously how much it's going to cost for ourselves or for the customer. So that would be it, basically.